A man digs up his dead lover's grave just to hold her one more time. Not in a horror movie. In a novel published in 1847 by a woman who lived almost her entire life on a windswept hill in Yorkshire and barely left the house. He begs her ghost to haunt him, not leave him in peace, haunt him, because being tormented by her is better than existing without her at all. This is not a love story. This is a warning wearing a love story's clothes. This is Wuthering Heights. Emily Brontë published this novel under the male pen name Ellis Bell, because in 1847, a woman writing something this dark and this violent simply wasn't allowed to put her real name on it. She lived on the Yorkshire moors, a wild, isolated, weather-beaten landscape, and that landscape becomes almost a character in the book itself, harsh, beautiful, and completely indifferent to human suffering. The story centers on Heathcliff, an orphan brought into the Earnshaw family as a boy, and Catherine Earnshaw, the daughter of the house. They grow up wild together on the moors, inseparable, until the family's fortunes and their own choices tear them apart. What follows isn't romance in the way we usually mean it. It's obsession, class resentment, and a need for another person so total it curdles into cruelty. The stakes aren't just heartbreak, they're generational. What these two do to each other doesn't end with them. Heathcliff arrives at Wuthering Heights as a dark-skinned orphan the family patriarch brings home from the streets of Liverpool with no explanation. Catherine's brother, Hindley, hates him instantly and torments him. Catherine does the opposite. She and Heathcliff become inseparable, running wild across the moors together, and something between friendship and identity forms. Catherine later says, plainly, "I am Heathcliff." Not that she loves him, that she is him. But there's a second house nearby, Thrushcross Grange, home to the wealthy, refined Linton family. Catherine is injured near their home, stays there recovering, and is introduced to a life of comfort, status, and gentility she's never had. She befriends Edgar Linton, a polite, wealthy, safe young man. And here is the fracture point. Catherine has to choose between the man she is soul-bound to and the man who can give her a respectable life. She chooses Edgar. Not because she loves him more. She says herself that marrying Heathcliff would degrade her, because Hindley has reduced him to a servant with no money and no prospects. She believes she can marry Edgar for security and still keep Heathcliff close, as something like a secret second self. Heathcliff overhears only the part where she says marrying him would degrade her. He doesn't stay to hear the rest. He vanishes into the night. He returns years later, transformed, wealthy, polished, and burning with controlled fury. And from this point on, the story stops being about longing and becomes about revenge. Heathcliff systematically destroys both families. He manipulates Hindley into gambling away his inheritance and takes Wuthering Heights for himself. He marries Edgar's sister, Isabella, not out of love but as a weapon, treating her with open cruelty. He positions himself to eventually control the fortunes and futures of both families' children. Every kindness Catherine and Edgar's world once denied him, he now returns as calculated harm. Catherine, torn apart by the collision of the two men and two lives she tried to hold at once, falls gravely ill during pregnancy. In one final, devastating meeting, she and Heathcliff accuse each other of destroying one another's lives, even as they cling to each other in the same breath. She dies shortly after giving birth to a daughter. Heathcliff doesn't grieve quietly. He curses her, begging her spirit to never leave him, to haunt him for the rest of his life, because a tormented existence with some trace of her is better than a peaceful one without her. It has to end this way, because their love was never built to sustain a life, only to destroy the people who denied it. For the next 18 years, Heathcliff pours his rage into controlling the second generation, Catherine's daughter and Hindley's son, forcing a marriage between them purely to seize the last of the property and inheritance he was once denied. He dies still obsessed, still reaching for Catherine, and legend in the village says the two of them are seen walking the moors together as ghosts, finally united only in death. Here's why this book still unsettles people 2 centuries later. Wuthering Heights gets mistaken for a great love story. But Emily Brontë wrote something closer to a case study in what happens when intense passion is never given a healthy outlet. Heathcliff and Catherine's bond isn't tender, it's consuming. It damages everyone around them, and eventually it damages their own children. We still romanticize this pattern today. The idea that if someone loves you obsessively enough, jealously enough, destructively enough, that's proof of how deep it runs. Brontë is quietly arguing the opposite, that this kind of love isn't rare or noble, it's dangerous, and it doesn't stay contained to the two people feeling it. It gets passed down. The trauma Heathcliff suffered as a boy becomes the trauma he inflicts as a man, and then inflicts on the next generation entirely. That cycle, pain becoming cruelty, becoming inherited pain, is something we're still trying to understand in families today. So here's my question for you. Have you ever watched a story marketed as epic love, and realized halfway through that what you were actually watching was two people hurting each other? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which one. If you want to see the other side of this coin, a story where restraint and patience win instead of obsession, go watch our breakdown of Pride and Prejudice right here. Thanks for watching, old and new. See you in the next one.